Chapter 6. Search and Rescue. The Huddle in the Dark. The Trail of Blood. "Check again," Mera scolded. "We did, ma'am," the soldier offered meekly. "We found his body in the snow. There were 2 sets of footprints leading up behind him. We can track Rickon's set, but the other one, it came down from the mountain." He stopped to let her digest. 2 sets were there, where Rickon's body was found, and 3 sets ran off. They match his size. I refuse to believe that. What you are suggesting is treason. Heresy, she spat out. "Ma'am, the men saw Rickon fall off the side of the cliff. He must have fallen and survived. We can track exactly where he fell. We can follow his footprints to his body. And the other footprints..." He looked around at the others for help. Another soldier chimed in. "If it's not Theron, then the children had help. Either way, Theron is out there alone in the dark on a suicide mission, or he is the one that helped them," the soldier called Corin said. He was stroking a thick graying beard with his large, hairy hands. "No," she began again, shaking her head furiously. "Gods be damned, you're letting your emotions get in the way." Corin tested her, his own anger rising to match hers. Mera was pacing, but stopped when he spoke. The others knew he had made a mistake. She turned on her heel quickly, approaching him with the step of a predator. With a blinding speed, she swung at him, her knuckles cracking against his cheek. He immediately fell to the snow and shrunk in her shadow, blood dripping from his nose and lips. He looked up at her, angry and embarrassed, avoiding eye contact with everyone else. Everyone knew Theron had left her in charge. She was also easily one of the most gifted forgiven they had in the company, and few would dare challenge her the way Corin had. "I am forgiven," she said sharply, her hand resting threateningly at her scabbard. "I am not a fool, and I am not willing to accept that someone as devout as Theron suddenly decided to help the enemy, and one of them a curseborn at that." She clenched her jaw, her fists white at her sides. The rage was taking her, but a nagging feeling was gnawing at her insides. Theron should have returned hours ago. He should have checked in. He would have. She was sure of it. Had everything she had ever felt been nothing more than a pretense? An imaginary picture of a non-existent future in her head? "But ma'am, we found a trail of blood near the tracks. It's possible that it belongs to the kids." "Go on," she urged. "Well, the kids were unhurt when they ran off. But what?" she screamed. Everyone shrank from her growing anger. "Theron, the crossbow bolt. So you think it's his blood?" she scoffed. Her mind was racing. She could feel herself losing grip on what was true. "Aye, ma'am, it could be his. It's consistent with his wound. It follows his tracks. At the very least, ma'am, it might lead us to him. If the enemy has charmed him or..." the scout added cautiously. "Damn that. It's his, you know it. We all know it. They got into his head and he betrayed us. We should leave them to die in the cold," Corin spoke up with a small group grunting in agreement. He began to rise from the ground, his confidence returning. "Careful, Corin," she said slowly, her voice rattling with rage. "You be careful. We're starting to think you've gone soft for Theron. He should never have left you in charge. I'm not the only one that feels it." Corin spun, wiping blood from his mouth and looking at the others. But Mera had already drawn her blade. "It's about time we all start speaking our mind. We're tired of following you and that high-strung, low-born commander up and down." Mera silenced him with the blade through his gut. The silence that followed was long. She studied the eyes of each of her soldiers, a defiant look burning, challenging them. "I am the commanding officer here. You would all do well to remember that you do not serve yourself. You do not find yourselves in foreign lands because of adventure. You are here for the Queen, for reign. We are here for the mission. Anyone who wishes to challenge that or threaten it is a hindrance we cannot afford. Understood?" There were furious nods and yes ma'ams from everyone as Corin died at their feet. After everything we've been trained for, everything we have fought for, she laughed to herself, a laugh that frightened everyone else. No, we will not leave him. We will find him to learn the truth. Memories flooded her mind. She remembered the first time she showed her gift when she was barely 10 and 3 years old. She remembered her fear when one of her family members turned her in for being curseborn and the way they looked at her, afraid of her. She was taken away from her home within the week to be treated, to be forged into a weapon for the kingdom. She remembered the fear and disgust she felt for herself, the many hours of training she was forced into, and the choice to either excel or die. The running, the fighting, the sparring, all the time spent, all that blood spilled. Mera felt tears forming. She bit her tongue to quell them with the pain. Anger. She met Theron the following summer after her first year of training at the Order of the Bastion, where all soldiers started. Theron's abilities had taken longer to manifest, and it took him even longer than her to adjust to life away from home. Even back then, it was obvious to her how afraid he was. And she was too. It wasn't long after that she would bring him flowers secretly to cheer him up. They would hold hands in the darkness when they should be sleeping. They had whispered their dreams to each other. She remembered how only hours ago they had talked about their future on that cliff. And she felt the pain in her heart swell. Theron and Mera had been there for each other when their whole world saw them as abominations. They were branded to remind everyone of their blood curse. They were sterilized so as to never pass on their defects. They had been forged in the fires of rain and turned into perfect soldiers. They had even graduated the Bastion together and went on to hone their magic with the other Forgiven. To them there was no friendship, only camaraderie. There was no home, there was only the crown. There were no dreams or hopes, only the mission. Mera opened her eyes and stared into the fire. The others were watching her hesitantly, waiting. He did not betray us, she spoke plainly, softly. Not of his own free will. There was a long silence in the huddle in the dark. She heaved a great sigh and turned to continue pacing. This time, nobody challenged her. The flames cast their shadows into the trees and over the pile of corpses they had gathered. The air was pregnant with silence. Finally, she relented. Fine. Follow the trail, she said shortly. Take 10 Forgiven with you. We will finish here and join you soon. They can't have gotten far. The soldier bowed and quickly began selecting his volunteers. And soldier, she spoke again. The soldier spun around at attention. Ma'am, if you find Theron and he did indeed betray us, do nothing. Understood? You come find me. She spat some dried blood onto the snow and stared into the fire again. Ma'am, he repeated quieter, slower. Find him, so I can drive my blade through his skull myself.